The title of this video is Scholarly References. If you're writing a paper, there's always this junction between what you want to say and what the audience wants to read. It's relevant when you have some overlap between those things. The same is true when you're reading. You want to try and find something that really meshes with what you're interested in. There are good sources and bad sources for trying to find this information, and we're going to go into some detail around that. A good source is one that answers your questions. It's written by an authority. It's recent, it's had a wide audience, it's really accurate, and obviously you're able to get to it. If it's behind a very expensive paywall, you're not going to be able to get there. A bad source is one that leaves questions. Do you agree with that? Well, it's true to some extent. If it leaves you with questions such as, what else could I do? What's the easiest way that I can make use of this? They're actually good questions. The bad sort of questions that are left are those where you go, why didn't they do this? Shouldn't they have done this? What were they thinking? So just leaving questions isn't such a bad thing, but there are some bad questions that really question the credibility of the work. Obviously, there are some basic questions that any source needs to address. Who was the writer thinking of when they actually wrote this piece? As has been said, text without a context can be a pretext for anything. It actually matters who the author was thinking of when they wrote this publication. What is the breadth of the work? Does it actually fit the kind of problems that you're interested in? Is it too specific? It only deals with a very tiny point within the world. Does it answer a question that you have? Give you a way to find a solution to a problem that you have? Or does it fill a need in your research? Does it add something new? Has it been peer reviewed? Was it written by a professional or a layperson? How complex is it? What do the statistics look like? Again, if you're not a statistician, have a talk to a statistician. Understand the method, because there may be things in there that you can apply to your own work. Is the work intended for an expert, or is it intended for a popular audience? Is there jargon? How specific are the words? Why are they publishing it? What are they trying to achieve? Is basic knowledge assumed, or is expert knowledge assumed? What isn't said? What's the style like? Are there illustrations, charts, tables, pictures? Are they there to actually communicate valuable information, or are they simply eye candy? Is the tone professional? Is it written by somebody that sounds like they really know what they're talking about? Or is it colloquial and casual? The answers to those things will tell you how scholarly a piece of work is. There's the so-called KATZ criteria for references. What was their purpose? Who wrote them? What was their level of authority? What's the scope? Who was the audience? How much do they cost? And what format are they in? So they're fundamentals for referencing. Let's look more at scholarly references in particular. Firstly, they're often extremely specific. They're in-depth, they're lengthy, they're technical. They are new. It's describing new work. And it's intended for specialists, for people that speak the technical, specific language of researchers, academics, and so on. And it's been critically evaluated by peers, top workers, authors, writers, researchers in the field have had a look at it, and they've said, yes, this piece of work is worth somebody else reading because they're going to get something out of it. The second point to make about scholarly references is that any article that is referenced follows the same format as we've talked about in previous videos. Abstract, introduction, method, results, discussion, conclusion, references. The design is there to convey information to you in a form that you can understand. Once you understand that frame for abstracts, you can absorb that information very quickly. Once you understand the funnels, you can work your way through sections very quickly, understanding how to find the information very quickly that you're after in a paper. It's about the speed of transmission, getting that information to you, right place at the right time. It's mostly text. There'll be some tables, there'll be some graphics. Generally won't be too many photographs, won't be glossy paper, won't be advertising. This is about the serious business of engineering, not about advertisement. The page numbers for issues within a volume within a year are generally consecutive. So if you actually see the paper forms, you might have 5 different books, and the 5th book doesn't start on page 1. It starts on the page number that follows the last page on the 4th book, and it's intended to present researchers' findings and conclusions based on original research. And there's some examples of journals there. One that I'd really recommend for engineers in particular is IEEE Communications and Surveys, particularly electronic or telecommunications engineers. It's a fantastic reference, particularly for the surveys. So, let's talk about the difference between scholarly and popular research. Well, academic engineering research is published in journals, written by the experts, peer-reviewed by other experts. It refers to something else, and the articles can be quite long, between 10 and 30 pages. Some articles can run to hundreds of pages, but that's less rare than you might think. Popular articles, on the other hand, well, they're written for anybody to read. So the technical language and the jargon is toned right down. Some of the difficult details are glossed over. There's no peer review necessarily. Won't be any references. They're there just to provide some information. And they tend to be short, a couple of hundred words to a few pages. So you have essentially the experts writing for experts, and then you have a general population writing for a more general population. I do not mean to say don't read popular articles. The criteria that I pointed out in the previous slide seem to suggest that longer articles are better, more technical articles are better, and so on. But what is better? Good work can be short. There are legends of a PhD thesis being 3 pages. I never tracked it down, but it is in theory possible. The work would obviously have to be extraordinary. Okay, good work can be short. Length doesn't necessarily naturally correlate with good work. Okay, popular articles can be original, and often the editors of popular articles are highly respected in their field, even though peer reviewers won't necessarily be looking at the articles. A single peer review by the best editor in the world with a background in engineering, that could be sufficient. Okay, and articles can include citations, even in popular literature. So don't just back away from popular sources, because there is gold to be found there. Okay? You need to be choosy, and part of this course is teaching you how to be choosy. But don't just back away from popular literature because we go, I'm an expert now, I'm only reading expert material, because there is gold to be found everywhere. Take note of that.